Welcome to the reptile room, everybody. My name is Eric. Those of you who know me, thanks for supporting my stuff. Today, I want to talk about my beardy. I want to talk about his habitat and what it takes to keep him alive and happy. So let's get into it. So let's have a look at our guy here. This is Torch. He's my central bearded dragon from Australia. He was born in Canada. He is a male. He's about 3 years old. He is a red, dark orange morph, and he is pretty darn handsome, don't you think? So when it comes to lighting and bearded dragons, it's very important to realize that bearded dragons are a sun-seeking animal. They require the sun and the radiation of the UVB rays to stay alive. So do turtles, so do chameleons. It's very important. So if you're in a pet shop and someone is trying to sell you an animal without ensuring that you have the proper lighting in place, don't buy it. I know sometimes you want to get out there and get an animal real quick. There's a lot to these. And bearded dragons, they'll say it's a beginner's pet. I would say it's more of a moderate. It's not quite a beginner's pet. These animals are going to require some attention. If you don't have the money to set them up properly the first time, you're going to spend a lot of money learning down the way. So let's just start by talking about, let's do the lighting right the first time. UVB bulbs. These are what you want. T5, 10% or more UV, because he's a sun-seeking animal. He's a basker. He will like to be out in the sun. He wants strong UV. So the box will usually say 10 to 14, depending on the company that you get them from. You want the thin bulbs, not the thicker ones like the ones you see in your house or at work or whatever in a fluorescent bulb. You want the thin version. They're the better ones. They will last you even longer. The other ones only last about 6 months. These will last you up to a year. If you're like me and you got a lot of animals, it's definitely worth it to get a light meter. This will tell you how much UV your lights are giving off and if you need to replace them or not. So sometimes this is cheaper than throwing out bulbs that are still good, that you don't know are still good, but you would know if you were able to test them, and this thing will pay for itself over time, I guarantee it. Now let's talk about heat. How much heat do these guys need? They live in the desert, right? Not necessarily. I mean, they live in arid areas. They also live near forests. They do live near water. And despite popular belief, bearded dragons do climb. They are not a terrestrial lizard that only stays on the ground. Everything climbs. They all like to climb. When you were a kid, you climbed. They're the same. So their temperatures vary, okay? And they are more tolerant than people give them credit for. They don't like heat at night. You don't need to give them heat at night. They need heat in the daytime when the sun's out. That's how it would be in nature. I give him a 100-watt bulb. It's on a dimmer, so I can adjust the temperature to the gradient that I want it to be. He's getting around 90, maybe up to 100 degrees if he was to sit underneath it. But like he is now, he just a little bit on the back, warms him up, and that's all he really wants. He's got his cool side. He's got a cave. If he wants to get completely out of the sun, completely away from the heat, even bury himself a bit, he can do that. Bearded dragons also brumate. It's not hibernation, it's brumation. They're not fully asleep. They will get up. They may eat a little bit, but they may sleep the majority of your winter away. He hasn't brumated since I got him. A lot of bearded dragons and other reptiles may never ever brumate in captivity because they don't really have a reason to. It doesn't get cold enough. They don't hit that instinct. I have a couple leopard geckos right now. You're barely seeing them. They're kind of brumating. Now we're going to hit this touchy subject of substrates. What to use as a substrate. Now, there are people out there that will use sand. This is not sand though. This is sand mixed with clay soil. It's probably the most natural, best mix that you can probably get. You should, ooh, lights are kicking out. It's almost time for bed for these guys. But that's his UV lights, they just kicked out. I have them on different timers, so his basking light will stay on a little bit later. Kind of gives it like a sunset vibe. But I use sand and soil mixture. A lot of people do that have been keeping reptiles for a while. A lot of beginners like to use tile. They think it's easier and cleaner. I don't like my animals living on what looks like a bathroom floor. A lot of people use slate. It can be expensive. It's nice. I mean, it wears their claws down and it makes nice warm spots when the basking light hits it. It warms up and it stays warm for a good long time. I'm still not a fan of it. I don't like cleaning up bearded dragon poop. It can be pretty nasty. If it goes into the sand soil mix, it just clumps up like cat poop and you just scoop it up. It is just so much easier. But what I want to talk about is the other substrates that come with the starter kits that you see in the pet shops and stuff. That reptile carpet, that green reptile carpet that looks like felt from a pool table. You don't want to ever use that. That stuff's very bad for them. It's going to catch their nails. A lot of animals have been known to just lose a nail, lose a whole finger. You know, you wake up in the morning, you see your animal's all bleeding everywhere because he got his finger stuck in this twined felty crap, right? And they can't get their hands out of it. It gets stuck. It's not cool. So avoid that. Don't get that stuff. A lot of people don't even like these hammocks. I think these are the better ones you can buy. I don't like the green ones. They have a very fine mesh and you can have that same problem. He's had no problems with it. I don't use them for any of the small geckos and stuff because they are prone to getting their fingers stuck. But he's been okay with these. So, you know, I've also have it set up like a ladder so he can climb in and climb out. That's his way in. So I like those. Those are okay. But there's probably a couple other substrates that you can buy in the pet shops, like calcium sand. You see these bright colored sand. They're all fake. Okay, there's no sands that come in those colors. Those are dyed. They're called calcium sand, and they'll sell you this idea that it's safe because it's a calcium sand and your animal needs calcium. That is not true. Those sands bind up like cement. If your animal eats it and it gets stuck inside their stomach, it's gonna bind up like a brick and it probably will kill your animal. It's a terrible way to die. Avoid those sands. If you take a play sand and a soil and you mix it together, you get something that's considered safe because play sand is not the same. It's not man-made. That's the problem. Okay, and these other sands, they turn into a cement, and like I said, you don't want that in your animal's stomach. Any of them, I don't use it. I don't buy it. It's a waste of money. It's overpriced and it's just garbage. So avoid that. Crushed walnut shells, that's another one. I don't know where they get these ideas that anything lives on freaking crushed walnuts. That's just, if you're gonna go loose substrate, you're gonna do a 50-50 play sand soil mix. That's what you want to do. Play sands straight from the Home Depot. That's where you want to. Same with the soil. Get an organic topsoil. Mix 2 bags of that together, and you got an excellent substrate. If you want to do tiles and stuff, that's fine too. I'm not a fan of it. More experienced keepers we don't like tile. We like our enclosures to look natural as possible. We put a lot of time into this and we want to do it right. So that's something I wanted to let you guys know about, because you're gonna see those sands there and you're like, wow, look at that bright red sand, and look, it's just garbage. Don't buy it. Just don't buy it. So now let's talk about enclosure size, which is so important and so costly if you do it wrong, and everybody does it wrong. We all do. Everybody made the same mistakes I did, and I don't care who you are, you did. But you don't want to be going into the pet stores and buying those starter kits that say Bearded Dragon starter kit, Zoom Med, Exoterra. They make good enclosures and all, but they are all too small. They may be okay for a small little bearded dragon that you might be buying. Try not to buy your bearded dragon or any pet at a pet shop. PetSmart, Petco, they get their animals from questionable places. Their enclosures are too small. 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, 2 feet tall. That's what you need for an adult, full-grown bearded dragon. That's actually considered the minimum now. So anything that they're trying to sell you, your bearded dragon is going to grow very, very fast. And he will outgrow that enclosure in a very small period of time. He will not be happy in one of those little 36-inch, they look big. My leopard geckos live in those. They say a leopard gecko should be in a 20-gallon tank. I say 40, and everybody will agree. Who knows what they're knowing? They'll know. They'll agree, believe me. You want 4 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. They have to have enough room to be able to turn around without struggling, right? That's what you would want. You don't want to be boxed in a little tiny box where you can't even turn around. It's called a prison cell, and you don't want that. He doesn't want that. Don't do it to them if you can avoid it. You get a small enclosure, you're going to be buying another one later on. It's often better off to just buy it right off the hop. You know you're going to need it, and when it comes time one day to sell it, you'll get top dollar for it, because people always need larger enclosures because they all make the same mistake. But your bearded dragon is going to live probably up to 15 years if you take good care of him. He's going to need that space, and you do not want to be switching enclosures 2, even 3 times. It's just not worth it. It'll cost you a lot. It's a lot of work. You buy those starter kits, they come with stuff that you don't need. You wind up throwing most of it out. It's just a beginner's haggle. They just it's a scam to get you to buy their crap that you're eventually just going to put on marketplace. Try to get something. I don't like glass. I use PVC. PVC looks nice. It's clean. It's just very nice and clean. I like it. The glass tanks, I have some, but I will be eventually upgrading them, and it's much lighter to carry. I mean, this glass just sucks. It just sucks. If you can do PVC, if you can afford it, if you can find used ones on marketplace, I highly suggest doing that. Make sure you get the right size. Don't cheap out, because you're just going to spend more money later. It's not worth it. Trust me. So let's just take a minute before we wrap this up. I want to talk about where you get your pet bearded dragon or leopard gecko or whatever it is that you decide to get. Like I said earlier, try not to buy them in the pet shops. I know you'll see them there and it's like, wow, that poor little guy, he looks so unhappy. Look, he's in such a small little cramped. But if you go and you buy that, you're just taking one out and they're just gonna put one back in, and it's just this cycle of corporate greed, and these animals are just not, it's just not fair to the animals, and it's just not a business that most of us like to try to avoid. We don't want to participate in any of that. So if you can try to get your animal from somebody who's probably rehoming theirs, there are so many people that are rehoming animals because their kids have lost interest, for instance. That's a huge one. That's a huge one. Parents get something for their kids keep them for 6 months, a year, and then next thing you know, they're not feeding it anymore, they're not taking care of it, and the animal's suffering, and now the parents are taking care of it. You'll find a lot. That's probably the biggest story. When you go on places like Craigslist, Kijiji, Marketplace, you're gonna find these animals. They're animals that they need a new home. So I have several animals that I've rehomed that were not in the best places, not the best conditions, not the best habitats. Some of them were living together when they shouldn't have been. You don't keep males together, stuff like that, and there was some of that going on. So I've taken in a few smaller animals, mostly geckos and stuff, but try to get something that's rehomed. Try to do a rescue if you can, because there's a lot out there, and a lot of times they'll sell you the enclosure, everything, and you'll get such a good deal, like $100, $150, you know. Get the animal. If he looks nice and healthy, you know, take him, you know, give him a home. They'll appreciate it, because some people, they're cruel. They'll leave their apartments and they'll leave their animals behind. I've seen that. I've seen bearded dragons in dumpsters. That's pretty messed up, you know. Like, who leaves their bearded dragon in a dumpster? Who moves out of their apartment and just leaves their tank with their animal in it? People do. People do. So if you can avoid buying an animal and you can rescue one, please do. Please do. It's so worth it, and you'll feel so much better. And a lot of times you're going to get an animal that's already used to humans. He's not going to be scared of you. He'll maybe sit on your shoulder and just be one of those lazy lizards that just wants to hang out with you. And that's awesome, because they can be a little bit difficult to tame. Even Torch, he's not about it. My previous dragon used to sit on my shoulder. I could drive through town. I could take him everywhere. Him, he's like, yeah, I'll sit on your shoulder, but you get 15 minutes and then I'm going to take a dump on you. No, I'm just kidding. He hasn't pooped on me. Not yet. But if you can rescue an animal, definitely do it. And there's a lot of reptiles. There's more than you think. I mean, if you just look, you're going to find a ton, and you'll be surprised, and you might find the animals you've always been looking for, and it may not break the bank. So check that out. So on that note, I think we covered all the basics. I want to thank you for taking the time. I know this video is probably a little bit long. Supporting my content. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm just doing my thing right now. I'm talking about reptiles, talking about watches, talking about cool kicks and good places to eat. So feel free to hit a like, follow me, all that stuff is much appreciated. Everybody who knows me, peace, appreciate your support.